What's good, everyone? Today's topic is one I've wanted to cover for quite some time, and it's on the subject of weight training and general fitness into middle age and beyond. Those of you who are regulars to this channel know that I'm in my 50s, and I have been training for several decades. There were some periods where I neglected my health and training, and I had to start from scratch again, but that just shows that it's never too late to focus on your health. Generally speaking, I think the key to successfully improving your physical fitness is to exercise your mind about yourself in order to properly exercise your body. Now, if you're in your 20s or 30s and you're thinking of moving on to another topic, I'll ask you to reconsider, as this is information that is important for you too. As the title states, this is about expectations for anyone over 40, so it's not only good for awareness, but also in preparation and understanding some of the changes that you may experience as you approach this age. So what can you expect in terms of strength, muscle definition, body fat, aches and pains, mobility, injuries, and more? Well, let's get into it. First, for anyone in their 40s and above, you already have an idea of the changes in your body, and you may or may not know about your limitations. Understanding your limitations and how to work around them is one of the most important aspects to successfully lifting into middle age and beyond. Naturally, as we age, we can first expect more mobility issues than when we were younger. We also have to approach every training session with the consciousness towards how we're feeling and take that into consideration for warm-up and stretching prior to actually lifting or exercising. This one factor is important to understand and accept before diving in. With age comes general wear and tear on our bodies, just like it does with everything else in life. Our homes, our vehicles, our tools, etc. Age doesn't mean you cannot lift or attain and maintain strength, but it does mean approaching more conscientiously than when you were in your 20s. Get to know yourself in order to effectively train within your limits and abilities. When you're young, you can literally go into the gym and start lifting the moment after walking through the door. I don't recommend that, but you could get away with it when you're younger. However, even in your 20s, you can sustain an injury due to not warming up, but a younger body is more flexible and more resilient than an older body. Wear and tear have yet to set in, and the joints and muscles are more elastic and likely have a greater range of motion. That's why it's less of a gamble in your 20s. However, you're not invincible, and it's still a gamble. That's why when you're older or approaching middle age, you need to know better. To start, you need to set aside time to properly warm up and or stretch. Rushing into training makes no sense at all. Even when you're motivated and eager to get your session in, it behooves you to set yourself up for success with proper warm-up. This is different for everyone, so I won't harp on this too much, but I will cover it briefly. Speaking from my experience and my past injuries, I know I have to be attentive to how my lower back feels on any given day. I also suffer from a previous shoulder injury, and lately I've been experiencing some groin pain. Therefore, depending on which body parts I'm training that day, I will adjust my warm-up routine as appropriate. For example, when I'm focusing on upper body, I spend less time warming up my leg muscles and joints. However, since my lower back connects my upper and lower body, I typically spend at least a little time stretching it out every day, just so it doesn't impose any limitations on my movements. I typically spend anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes a day on warm-ups. Previously, I mentioned conscientiously approaching, and by that I mean quick and honest assessment of how you're feeling that day. When I'm feeling great, my warm-ups take less time, and when I'm feeling sore or stiff, I need to take a little more time loosening up. Over the age of 40, you really cannot afford to ignore pain, soreness, or any kind of awkwardness in your body, and just aim for the fences. Secondly, and this goes for every age, you also need to be aware of your mobility issues and address them prior to your training sessions. I know I have right ankle mobility limitations, so when I'm squatting, I need to spend a little more time working on that prior to my lifting. If I don't, my movements will lack fluidity, and I risk causing an injury due to the limitations. Prior to discovering this limitation, I began suffering from knee pain once I hit heavier squats. It was discouraging, but with awareness and attention, I overcame that issue and have successfully increased my squat strength over time. Every now and then, I'm still aware that I didn't do enough, as you can see my body zigzag going up and down, as opposed to a fluid vertical up and down motion. Mobility issues are tricky because we may not even be aware of our limitations until we feel pain from certain movements. The key there is to pay attention and not ignore the signs. One really great source for mobility awareness and tools to mitigate them is Squat University, and I'll leave a link in the description below. If you're suffering from any pain, give his channel a search and see if he has discussed your issue in the past. So why is mobility so important? Mobility affects your mechanics and the efficiency of your movements. If your technique is poor or inefficient, you are more susceptible to injuries when training. If that isn't enough to focus on good mobility, know that inefficient technique and mechanics will also rob you of strength and growth potential, similar to a shortened range of motion where you're not getting the full benefits of the movement. If you're going to train at all, you may as well train smartly and gain the most from your time and efforts. So what kind of strength gains can you expect? Well, that differs for everyone. Just because you're over 40 doesn't mean you cannot lift heavy weights or hit new PRs. Genetics will play a role in each individual's potential gains, but hard work and a smart approach can optimize gains for you and your genetics. For myself, when I resumed my training in 2018, I went from an uncharacteristic 270 pounds and about 30% body fat to 211 and 7% body fat. I successfully achieved body recomposition and regained strength everywhere. Since then, I switched from bodybuilding to powerlifting, where I increased my overall strength by magnitudes. My squat went from about 225 to 365 in 18 months. In the same time, my bench press went from about 225 to 290, and my deadlifts went from 225 to 385. Those are significant numbers representing a huge increase in strength for someone over 50. Additionally, here are some of my favorite examples of other individuals over 40 who weight train. First up, we have Joel P., who goes by Mr. Kentucky 03. He's a 61-year-old former bodybuilder, and just look at his physique at the age of 46. Incredible, and it shows what you can do at any age if you put your mind to it. He trains around 5 days a week and is still ridiculously strong. Next up is Aaron White from White Box Dubai. He's 48 years old, and Aaron went from CrossFit to power building and successfully increased his strength by 172.5 kilos in the last 3 years in his 40s. Then there's Gerard S., who also goes by Radio 1399. He's 43 and says his bench has been his best lift, and he stays fit to easily meet the PT standards for his 19-year career in law enforcement. His PRs are 400 pounds for squat, 345 for bench, and 445 for deadlifts, which he's still well within those numbers today. And last but not least, Brandon, 41 years old, who's well known in the YouTube lifting community, and you've seen his accomplishments in the past. His last comp in May, he did extremely well with 606 for squats, 325 for bench, and 628 pounds for deadlifts. That's about 200 pounds total increase in the last decade, but that's significant when you're already in the 500 pound range and almost 20 pounds lighter in body weight these days. As noted, some of them have been training for years, and I'm sure there are other examples of those who have started lifting later in life with equally impressive numbers. My oldest niece, for example, didn't start weight training until about the age of 39, and she is still going strong at 41. She just does CrossFit and has lost a lot of weight through her training and improved her overall strength and health. This goes to show that if you're training in your 20s and 30s and you maintain good practices and strategies, you're only setting yourself up for success into middle age and beyond. Now I'll end this hopefully inspiring video here, but I will release another part to this where I've asked these mature lifters I've shown to share some of their tips and strategies for staying healthy all these years. Let's face it, with age comes wisdom. That's not to say expertise, but you cannot successfully lift for decades without having learned a few things and putting them to work for you. The point of this two-part video is to impart some of that wisdom with anyone who's interested, since knowledge should be shared. I hope you'll tune into the next video to hear what some of these seasoned lifters recommend for proven longevity. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.